Hello, my friends. I'm Glacia Rain, intuitive life coach, Ascension guide, and I am here to talk with you about the energies of May 2021. So, we've really been going through a lot of different things in the collective, right? You can see the world is pretty much in chaos. That's nothing new to you at this point. But this video is mostly going to be about the things that I see coming up and the things that I see are possible for the collective. So there's a lot been done to create separation and division within humanity. You can see it all over the place. And we are entering into the unity consciousness template, right? So all of this stuff does have to come up to be examined so that we can rework it. So sometimes when things look like they are going horribly wrong, it may just be a breakdown phase before the light, right? So it's basically we're in a dark, very dark period, right? Things feel heavy. We've been going through ascension symptoms. We've just been really feeling awful all around, right? So with that being said, it will pass. We will get through this, and everybody does have their free will right now. I always have. And exercising that free will needs to be respected by each other in a compassionate and loving way. So we get to look at what our contribution to the collective is, and if it's something that we really want to contribute. So for the indigos and the starseeds who came here to really help humanity, it's something that right now, many of you are going through it and wondering why it is that you chose to do this when it seems like it's not really helping, or that your efforts are being rejected by the world around you, or you're being told that you're crazy or you're wrong, or there's a lot of shaming going on around what you want to talk about or your point of view about it. And a lot of people have been stimulated to be in fight or flight. This is done through fear tactics. And it's important to remember that when people are in fight or flight, they're not at their best, okay? So having compassion, kindness, and love, and taking the approach that you would like somebody to take with you. And that means listening with an open mind and respecting the other person's point of view and not making them wrong for being where they're at. So we have enough of the fear-based perspectives. We have enough of the rejection of other people's ideas. And a lot of what we are basing our opinions on is speculation, and then perceptions through the filters or energetic distortions from the trauma that you have experienced. And that's perhaps the ancestral trauma that many of us are carrying. Whether or not it was something that was orchestrated, and I mean like wars and the reasons behind the wars and things like that, the trauma that resulted is still the same. So stepping out of the energies of blame, shame, and guilt, and stepping into the energies of solutions, compassion, love, and kindness is the way forward for most of us, okay? Now, within that, though, you can only meet somebody as far as they have met themselves, and nobody is wrong for where they're at right now. People are doing their best, and it's really important to remember that. And so if you identify with being an indigo or a starseed, you knew what you signed up for, and you knew that during this timeline split, the end of the really dark times on planet Earth is now. We are in the darkest moment, okay? And during this darkest moment, each one of us is going to be challenged and pushed outside of our comfort zone. We're going to be pushed beyond our belief systems into new territory. So we have to expand in our consciousness. We have to be willing to look at different perceptions and perspectives And also be willing to change our minds if we get new information that changes our beliefs based on our past perceptions. Now, holding somebody to being right or wrong all the time is impractical, because right now we've been working with limited information. We know that there's deception in the media. That's not anything new either. And all of this stuff is coming to light, right? It's coming to light so we can rework it, so we can build our new reality based on what we are witnessing that works and what does not work, right? So, with these filters that we're all seeing through, these are usually the ego distortions, the past life trauma, current life trauma, or the ancestral trauma. Now, a lot of times these are accompanied by stories about why it happened, who's to blame, and how it can be made right. And truly, cosmic sovereign justice is the way that things are going to be restored. And you know what? You don't have to deliver that. So many of you feel responsible for making sure that others understand your point of view. And that's beautiful. It is. Sharing your point of view, especially when you know that it could be rejected, it makes you vulnerable. It's a very courageous thing to do. Now, doing it with love or doing it with force, you're going to experience a very different outcome. And often what I have found myself personally is that when you are willing to listen to somebody else's point of view, they're usually willing to listen to yours too. The reason that we are unable to hear each other's points of view can be from cognitive dissonance, and it can be from the energy of fear. Fear causes you to reject new information. When we're looking at the world, we notice how tumultuous and troublesome it is right now. We are facing challenges in every single area. So finances, in health, definitely, in distribution of resources, in power or corruption of power. So we're really having to notice, what's going on in the world and then feel about it. Now, when we have ego distortions, that's when we start to get into trouble. Okay, the ego distortions can make you lash out at others if you think they're wrong, or your point of view is threatened if they don't agree with it. And that's what we really need to put down as a collective now. When humanity unites, beautiful things happen. So when humanity fights itself, then there is somebody who is benefiting from that orchestration or the setting up of the two different sides, right? We're in this together. Whether we want to be or not, we are. And we have to find a way to get along with each other and love each other regardless of our different opinions or different points of view. It doesn't feel good to be at odds with each other, but it does feel good to be at peace with each other. And each of us needs to take a look at what we are willing to do to establish that peace with each other. Because for me personally, I know that I like it when people listen with an open mind. Nobody has to agree with me. Nobody even has to listen to me, really. But if I am in dialogue with somebody and I open up and share, it feels amazing for my point of view to be received. And it makes me even more eager to listen to somebody else's and really think about what they're saying. So when you listen with an open mind, you are able to expand in your awareness so much greater than if you listen with a closed mind. The closed-mindedness is, it's almost a form of personal censorship. And I'm seeing that in social media a lot, where people are shutting each other down. Sometimes you may not want to discuss certain things, and that's okay. It's completely okay. And kindly let people know I don't want to discuss this, or remove comments, things like that, right? Lashing out at others and making them wrong, though, is just perpetuating the censorship. It's just creating more division, okay? So being open to hear each other is going to be very necessary during the month of May, creating a neutral, safe place for others to discuss their points of view with you if that's what you're doing. You know, there's a tendency to have a disposable way of being in our society. If it doesn't fit, throw it away, right? Well, sometimes the things that don't fit might be a point of view that can change. So if you throw something away, like a person that you care about very dearly just because their opinion is different at that moment, you may be burning a bridge that you later then wish you could cross again. Okay? So be thoughtful before you cast people out of your life. Now, this doesn't apply to any toxic situations. If somebody is hurting you or being very toxic, step away. That is what you need to do for self-love and self-preservation. But if it's just something where they hold a different point of view and you feel wrong about it, that's some inner work that you need to do, because remember, projections and reflections, okay? We see in others what we don't want to see in ourselves often. Not always, you know, sometimes we see in others something that we don't like that they're doing, you know, and we may not be doing it in our life. It might just be something we don't like, and that's okay. That's when you move away from something. So as we progress forward through this ascension process, each of us is going to be challenged in ways that we are unaware of right now. And the reason that this happens is because it is part of your soul's evolution. It's part of your spiritual development, and it is part of your journey home to yourself. Okay? You exist beyond the third dimension, and you have the potential to exist beyond the 12th dimension. But right now, what we're focusing on is the third dimension. We're focusing on coming into balance and neutrality within the third dimension as a collective, okay? Now, this doesn't mean that we aren't multidimensional beings, right? But what this does mean is that we are not necessarily going to fifth dimension or something like that. Our work right now is in the third dimension, and we are going multidimensional. We are developing our multidimensional template in the form of our light body, like I mentioned in the last video. But we're not necessarily leaving third dimension right now and shifting into a different dimension, okay? So that may be confusing for many of you. And as you progress along your ascension path, the right information is going to come to you at the right time. And asking the open-ended questions to your higher self is a really great way to align with the information that you're seeking. Now, the ascension guides out there, many of them have been asked to lay low by their higher selves, including me. And I would love to completely lay low and just go be in the forest for years, but I'm here, and I'm going to keep being here with you and for you and sharing what comes through. So this platform that we're on right now, YouTube, is not somewhere that I share a lot of the information that comes through. I do share a lot, actually, but I mean, I don't share all of it because of the nature of this platform and the censorship. Okay, the stuff that really comes through that I really would love to share here, but don't feel comfortable doing it, is on Patreon. So it's not on Instagram either. And some of the stuff that comes through is not stuff that everybody is ready for. And so before signing up to my Patreon, please be sure to connect in with your higher self and make sure it's something that is in alignment with your path right now. Because I want to make sure in my sharing that the people who are ready for the information are the people aligning with it, okay? That's why I'm also keeping this channel up and sharing a bit more light stuff here. So I want to let you know this as well. Everything you need for your ascension journey can be found within you. There's nothing that you need for your ascension journey that is outside of you. Now, some of you may say, but I don't hear my higher self. That's okay. Keep asking for guidance from your higher self. And it's not that you can't get support from others, because of course we're here for each other. Humanity is a very community-based collective. We like to be with each other. You know, some of our favorite things to do it's to connect with others. In the sessions that I do, that is one of the most important things to people that I have found, is their ability to connect with others, to be accepted by others, to know that they belong with others. And that's where you can look at this global agenda of separation and how heartbreaking it is to keep us apart from each other. We just want to be with each other because we are community-based beings and we feel each other. And when we connect with each other, our hearts bond and that love grows. Even if we're not even focused on each other, we can be in each other's field and be nourished by each other's love. So humans emit an electromagnetic field, and that is your biofield or aura. Your aura or biofield, it has layers and layers and layers to it, right? And each layer corresponds with another dimension. And right now in the third dimension, we are working through some really big stuff in our root chakras. So the lower three chakras, which are, you know, the survival, self-expression, and then the navel chakra is part of this, not just the solar plexus. The navel chakra is a minor chakra, but it has to do with life purpose. And then, of course, the solar plexus has to do with your willpower. And if you look around at the world, you can tell that we're really focused in the first three dimensions with our collective challenge. So you can look at what you can do if you want to rise up into the heart. And many of you already operate from the heart, right? And it's really good to continue rising up. And eventually the chakra system will unify and become your light field. It'll be a field of unified light, right? But we're not there yet. So as individuals, there is a personal process of clearing the chakras. And this is what we do in the quantum energy coding sessions and also the pranic healing sessions, the biofield tuning and stuff. And many other healers do this as well. But you can do this stuff yourself too, you know, so you can focus on your chakra, say your root chakra, and send it love, send it support, give it gratitude, breathe into it, okay? And start shifting the energy there. And then you can also focus on something like something that makes you feel safe. So if you're afraid, you can shift your focus to something that helps you feel safe. And that may be whatever it is for you, right? And when you start to focus or even ask an open-ended question, what is it like when I feel safe? How do I hold myself when I feel safe and secure in myself? What do I do when I feel safe? How do I look? How do I behave? What do I wear when I feel safe? Who do I talk to? And by doing that, you start to generate the feeling of safety and security. And you know what? That starts to take hold in the root chakra. The root chakra is the survival center. So a lot of people are in their root chakra right now and seeing through the filters or ego distortions of fear and separation. So there's another example, laughter. Laughter helps lighten the energy of your aura. So if you're having a hard time shifting your energy, put on a comedy or something like that. And you can also certainly focus on it and feel through it. But staying in it long term is extremely detrimental for the body. And also pretending that it doesn't exist is also extremely detrimental for the body because it'll loop back around. Speaking of time loops, that's what I'm going to get into in much greater detail in the Patreon. The rest of this video will be in Patreon, but I'll talk a little bit about that right now. We're starting to see, I'm starting to notice it everywhere, but the different attempts to get you to recreate past timelines. So I've spoken about the Atlantean timeline wars before, and many of you may have recollection of that and may have different memories of Atlantis based on what timeline you experienced there. We're also in timeline wars right now. So there's synthetic timelines and there's organic timelines, right? You've got the Ascension timelines and the Armageddon timelines. And if you can predict what somebody is going to do, it's easy to put them in a time loop. Now, there's been studies done where if you set up an area, like you stage it to look a certain way in the past, people's bodies will respond and actually grow younger. Their studies have been done. I'm not making this up. So, Joe Dispenza talks about this. Whether you agree with him, like him, or not, this is still a study that was done. So, anyways, with these studies, though, what it helped me understand is that the subconscious mind has the power to override the conscious mind, right? So if the conscious mind is witnessing a staged location where it's set up to look in a certain time period, and you have lived in that time period before, you will kind of revert back to that with your way of being, okay? Because you've practiced it, you lived through it. Your mind knows what to do in that. So when you look at today's fashion, number one, in the United States, what I am seeing, it's a nightmare. Personal opinion there. But and that's mainstream, some of it is a nightmare. But a lot of it is really, it looks like the past. So it's past bands from the 60s and 70s, old cartoon characters from that time period. And this is being done to create a lot of confusion around the timelines. If you're confused about where you are in time, you're pretty easy to manipulate into a specific timeline, right? So it's important to know that we are having new experiences. We're not trying to be in time loops or go back into the past. We don't want to recreate these old timelines, whether they be timelines from, this lifetime that we've already lived in, or Atlantean timelines. A lot of the different silent weapons or the psychotronic weapons and the warfare that's going on, the war on consciousness here, this was done in Atlantis. This is not new technology. So a lot of this stuff just goes in time loops, and if it works, then it's not broken, so you don't fix it, right? And by if it works, I mean, if the strategy worked against the people once, it might work again. It's kind of like a stray cat. If you feed it, it comes back, which I totally would feed a stray cat. I actually tried to adopt a stray cat, but it ran away. Anyways, so what I'm trying to say, though, is be mindful of your environment. Be mindful of what you choose to pay attention to. And though nostalgia feels great, you're meant to be creating new timelines right now, not taking the past and imprinting today's timeline with it, okay? We are creator beings creating a new earth reality, not regurgitating a fallen grid, old earth reality that we are trying to transcend the mindset and ways of being of, okay? So I'll get into a bit more of this if you're interested in, the stuff on Patreon is heavier. It is. But it's also the revocations of how to get out of some of these things that are going on. And I just finished up a guided meditation to help clear pathogens and the other types of, different biological strategies to make you sick, right? So, my goal is to find solutions for what we're experiencing here. And part of that is going through it myself, right? And figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And I've been doing a lot of treatments with resonant light therapy, so sound and light. But the thing is, you don't need anything outside of yourself to heal. you are a creator of sound, you are a creator of light, and your consciousness directs both of those. And recently, when I was tuning in with my higher self, I got the information to use the tritone energies. And by tritone energies, I didn't really know what that meant. And I said, what's a tritone energy? And I was told it's light, sound, and consciousness. Those are the three things that you need to create. The light and the sound create the energy that's necessary to bring something into form, and the consciousness directs those two. And my friends, you have all three of those. So it's really about maintaining your focus, right, on what you want it to be on, and then applying intention and using the light and sound to get results. Something I want to address really quickly before I end this and shift over just to the Patreon video is something that I had to become aware of, which is toxic positivity. Now, I've fallen into this before, and there's no blame, shame, or guilt in it. And it was part of my understanding of the law of attraction, right? Actually, it was part of my misunderstanding of the law of attraction. But the way that I understood that was that you just have to be positive, and you can change your mind about anything at any point, and you don't have to dwell in the negative. And I realized that when I do that, sometimes I'm invalidating my own experience with something that I don't like or don't feel good about, and I'm also invalidating others' experiences. So this is something that we need to be mindful that we're not just denying somebody else's experience and pain or blaming them for being in that situation. And this is something I kind of beat myself up for a bit, because I thought, like, if I could manifest, then what's so wrong with me? Why am I manifesting something that I don't like sometimes? I must be terrible at manifesting. But really, we have all these ego distortions, and we have trauma and pain, and we have negative thought forms and all of those things that we need to clear and grow through. And it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if those show up. If you observe them and make some changes and acknowledge them, you can have a breakthrough. And this is where acknowledgement of what is, and then redirecting if you need to, so you don't dwell somewhere. But dwelling and acknowledging are completely different things. So if you're sad or you're angry and you make yourself wrong for being that way, the sadness and the anger doesn't go away. It just starts to fester within you. So if you stop and acknowledge, I feel sad and I feel angry right now, you may or may not understand why you do. But if you start asking questions, what can I do to shift this? Where is this located in my body? How did this get here? What caused this? Why am I still holding this? How can I release it now? And you start to tune in with it instead of run away from it or make yourself wrong for having it, which this is the avoidance of the shadow when people do that, right? They want to make sure that they're just good and love and light and positive, but really, you've been subjected to a lot of negative things. And a lot of these negative things have created traumas. And if you don't work through these traumas, they will loop in your life until you are willing to work through them or come to some type of inner peace around them. So if others around you are talking about their experience and they need somebody to hear them and acknowledge their feelings, be that for somebody. Hold that neutral space for somebody. Whether you agree with it or not, you don't have to agree with somebody. Maybe you can see where they're doing it to themselves or how they've aligned with it. But if you say to somebody, well, you must have done something wrong because you've aligned with this, that's basically blaming them and stuffing that back down their throat when they're trying to just acknowledge how they feel pain from it. So being that neutral ear for somebody to get it out, and then ask them, how can I support you? Or acknowledge their pain. I'm sorry that you feel that way. that sometimes is enough for the person to shift and allow the solution to come in, because sometimes people just need to be heard and they need to be held. And this, my friends, is what I am seeing the collective needs now more than I have ever seen it needed. I love you so very much, and I apologize that my comments have been off on my last 2 videos. It's a little box that you check or uncheck. It's on by default. The comments are off by default. I will make sure that I turn them on because I want to hear from you, and I have a Q&A coming up in May. And I would love to get some of the questions that you have for the Q&A, and then I'll post when it is. And if you're part of the top tier Patreon, you're automatically included in the Q&A if you want to be. So anyways, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. We are in a very dark time, but you know what? We will get through this, and we will do it together. And we will be triumphant in the end of this. And we will create this new earth reality that so many of us are ready for and we feel inside of us. We want that liberation. We want the freedom to express ourselves as we are, to be authentic, to be received, to grow our food, to eat healthy, to drink healthy, to think healthy. We're choosing that. And it is coming in the timelines. A lot of what you see playing out right now is basically stuff from the past, right? So in the now moment, you're experiencing what you have already set into motion in the past while simultaneously imprinting your future timelines. The now moment is the moment of power. I love you. Take care, my friends, and I will be back soon.